It's you looking the best that you can look. It's you speaking the best that you can speak. It's you doing the most work that you can do to prove that you are who you are. And that is what imposter syndrome is.
Hey friends, Jamie Ivey here. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey. We have a great show in store for you today. Bre Clark joins me and we talk about imposter syndrome. We've all felt it. We all know what it is. So her and I talk about it. We talk about how to handle online criticism. She works in the online world. I work in the online world. And a lot of us live lives in the online world. So it is relevant to all of us. We have a great show. Stick through the end because I want to tell you something coming up in my own personal life. So here's my conversation with Bre Clark. Hey, Bre, welcome to the Happy Hour.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jamie.
So excited. We have mutual friends, but this is our first time to meet, which feels sad and awesome all at the same time. So really excited, but I'm so excited that you're on the show today. So would you introduce yourself to my listeners?
Yeah, so I'm Bre Clark. I am a journalist, a mom, a wife, a friend, all the things. I would probably describe myself best as just an everyday woman.
I love
It
made me think of that song. Who sings it? I'm every
Yeah,
woman. It's all. Who is that?
it's
And
true.
me.
Oh my gosh, I want
Anything
to
you
say
want done,
Whitney.
baby.
Yeah, Whitney Houston, but I'm not sure.
Let's
Yeah,
just give
I'm
it
gonna
to
give
her
it a
because
couple.
Whitney's the best. Okay,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
we might as
I
well.
think it is. Did she sing that in The Bodyguard? Now I'm going to go on a rabbit trail here.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Go, okay. Carry on, everyday woman, Bre.
Yeah. No, it's funny. So I am young. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not going to pretend that I've been on this earth for forever. But my husband and I have lived a lot of life. We've been married for the last 11 years. We have moved 13 times in the last years. We've lived in 5 different states. We've lost a baby. We've had a baby. We're about to have another baby. And just a lot of there's just been a lot that has happened jam-packed in our more than 30 years of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel blessed in that because I feel like that I can relate to a lot of women. And I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I have probably 2 more lifetimes to live in this season. So I'm just kind of excited to see what that has in store for me. So
I love so much that you said, I'm just this everyday woman. And then you listed out all of these things that you have had to endure and that you've gone through and that life has brought your way. And it just got me thinking right off the bat, man, so often we think we're the only ones that might be struggling with fill in the blank, or we're the only ones that's feeling this way. And I love that you just said from the get-go, like, I'm just like every other woman, and we have been through some things and we will go through some things. And I really appreciate that. Okay. I want to start here. There's a couple things. I have a list of things I want to talk to you about. So let's see if we can, I'll just check them off my list. Okay.
Let me buckle up. All right.
Buckle up. Here we go. Okay. First of all, you're a journalist, and that is a super exciting job. Sometimes, Bre, sometimes it makes me laugh because I host a podcast. People will sometimes give me that title, and I want to say absolutely not. No. Oh no. Oh no. You don't know how bad my grammar is. I do not do things correctly. I'm just over here singing Every Woman by potentially Whitney Houston on an interview. Okay, I am not a journalist, but I always think that journalists are so cool and so awesome. And so tell me a little bit about your journalism career.
Yeah. Well, everything that you think you know about it, just like dish that out of your head right now.
Okay.
It's awful and great at the same time.
Because you did TV, right?
Yeah, so I was a news reporter, news anchor. It took me a long time to embrace the term news anchor because they're like the gods to us, as they walk around. But the truth is I was a news anchor, and I actually started my career when I was a teenager. I was in college. It was my last semester, and I got thrown to the wolves at this news station in Houston, Texas. I started as a producer, had no idea what I was doing. Got cussed out every day because it's a news station, and it was a shock. But I do believe that kind of helped pave the way for all the things that were to come after that. So I actually left news right after that job. I had to quit because I was failing all of my last semester classes. I was like, I am not going to graduate. And my fiance at the time, who's now my husband, he's like, "Yeah, you don't like this." And I was like, "I don't like this." And so I left and did PR, and we moved to Beaumont, Texas, this little small place. And we were there for a year. And my husband's like, "You don't like this either." He's like, "I think you need to go back to TV. You loved telling stories.
Mm.
So find a place where you can do that. Don't settle." Right. So I didn't settle. I looked on the map and it was like, where can I go that I've never been? And Idaho Falls came up. Went to Idaho Falls and was there for 2 years. And I was their first African American woman to ever sit on their anchor desk in the entire
Wow.
state, not just the city there, the entire state.
The entire
And so,
state.
yes, the entire
Bree,
state.
that's
And this was
amazing.
2015. It
Mm.
wasn't like, for
Mhm.
this is 2015. And so I loved it because the community, a lot of them had never met a Black person before ever in their life. And so for a lot of them, I was the first in person. And they just loved on me. They just
Mm.
corralled around me that I was very sad when I had to leave. We moved here to Austin, Texas, and we started our lives and we bounced back and forth. I ended up back in Idaho as their main anchor when their main anchor retired. And this was in the midst of COVID, right? And that's when journalism changed. And that's why I said it's
Mhm.
awful and great at the same time, because all eyes are on you.
Mm.
I mean, you're able to tell these stories. You're able to reach people that you probably would have never reached before without television. But then there's this pressure. There's this pressure to perform, to be perfect, to look the part, and you get everyone's feedback in real time, because now there's
Mm.
social media. So there were times where I had people messaging me while I was, delivering the news, telling me, "I don't like the way you sound. I don't like the way you look. I
Mm.
don't like what you're wearing." And then on the flip side of that, you had women going, "Oh my gosh, girl, I love, what you've done."
Yeah.
And so you're getting all this feedback. And so yeah, that's journalism. And then you don't have a
Mm.
cameraman. Everybody thinks, "Oh, you had a cameraman, you had a makeup person, you had a hair person." No, you do all of that yourself. And so I tell people, I'm like, you have to learn to be a jack of all trades when you're in this industry, because you do all of it yourself.
It's funny because I used to dream of being a news anchor, but I just wanted to really be like Barbara Walters or Robin Roberts. And I wanted to show up and sit in the chair every day and have someone fix my hair and makeup and then
Yeah.
read a teleprompter. That's what I envisioned it being. And then it is not like that at all. You're so
No,
right. I
no.
want to ask you, you mentioned something that I think is I definitely don't want to use the word epidemic by any means, but this
Mhm.
online conversations that we have, and you and I both work in the online space, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and you can connect with people. I mean, the fact that you and I are connecting over the internet right now is
Yeah.
just like so kind of God to give us this technology that we can like have a
Yeah.
conversation that's going to point people to Jesus. And yet, on the
Yeah.
flip side, you and I have both been on the other ends of people giving us whatever kind of feedback, comments they want to give us at any time of the day. You just talked about how in the middle of a news segment, people could tell you how much they hated you.
Yeah.
How I have two questions for you really. What is your
Yeah.
encouragement for the people who are receiving messages like this? Like how did you handle that? And this is not just coming to people who have a blue check mark next to their name who are public
Mhm.
figures. This happens to I don't know anyone online who does any kind of conversations online that hasn't dealt
Yeah.
with this. What is your encouragement for that woman that is maybe listening to those comments a little too much or
Yeah.
believing them? How do you fight that? How did you fight it then and how do you fight it now?
Yeah. Oh, I deal with it better now than I did before. Before, the wrong comment at the wrong time would send me into a spiral, right?
Mhm.
And I had to learn that my self-worth didn't come from people.
Mm.
And that's a lot easier said than done,
Yeah.
because we want people to like us, right? I can't tell you how many times I've met a person who's like, "I don't care if someone likes me." And I'm like, that's a load of crap, right?
Mhm.
Like, you might not care as much as I do, but
Yeah.
some part of you cares, right? Because we were built to have connection. We were built to be in community. There's safety in numbers, right? And
Mhm.
if I was a caveman and my pack didn't like me, I was going to die, right? It's not quite that way now, but we
Mhm.
want people to like us.
Yeah.
And so the way that I deal with it is I tell myself that the only person who is going to give me the love that I deserve is me and Jesus.
Mm.
Those are the only two people, right? And a lot of those times when I would go on the anchor desk, I remember reaching out to this girl on social media. She was my mentor when I was in Houston. She was a pastor's daughter. And I said, "Do you have any scriptures that you read before you go on air?" And she says, "Of course I do." She's like, "I can't
Mm,
believe you don't have any now, right?" And she sent me a couple of those, and I would write them down and I would keep them close and I would read them, things that God would say about me, about how I'm beautifully and wonderfully made, how he cares about me, how he loves me, how he has plans for me. That verse in Jeremiah is the one that I love the most. For I know the plans that I have for you, right? And so I had to remember that God had put me in that spot. I don't think I've ever really told anybody this, but I was not the first pick for the anchor desk in Idaho
mm,
Falls. They actually ran out of time and they
mm,
needed someone, and my name came up, and they were like, "All right, let's see if she'll move here," right?
mhm,
Because I wasn't first in line. And then when I got there, a lot of people were like, why her?"
mm,
And I had to rely on the fact that I knew that Jesus wouldn't have brought my name up if that wasn't where I needed to be. He
mhm,
put me on that anchor desk because there was things that he wanted me to say. There was things that he wanted people to see, and there was things he wanted me to see.
mhm,
And I think the main reason I was there was for him to teach me that my self-worth only comes from him,
mm,
that it only comes from me and us together, and that I have to find that love. And so that's what I would tell anyone who's on social media, because you're going to get them. Even
mhm,
if you haven't gotten them yet, you're going to get someone who says something that you don't like, that hits you wrong. And you have to have that foundation of, I am who I am, I know who I am, and I love who I am, right? And if you're still in the process of finding that and loving who you are, keep at it. It's
mm,
gonna come. It's not gonna happen overnight. Because I know that I felt like, man, I started beating myself up. I'm like, why do I care so much?
mhm.
That was my thing. It wasn't always
Yeah.
the messages. It was like, why do I care so much?
Mhm.
And eventually I was like, I got to stop beating myself up about this. This is going to take some time.
Yeah.
I'm going to have
Yeah.
to unlearn some things
Mhm.
and learn that God loves me and that
I love it.
that he made Bre Clark, and Bre
Mhm.
Clark is here despite all the odds, because there was a time where I didn't think I was going to be here, and I
Yeah.
am. I'm here.
Mhm.
And so I had to lean into that, and I'll tell people to lean into that.
I love it, Brie. I worked in radio for a hot second in 2011, and radio. They can't see you, but we live in a social media age and stuff, and so and this was 13 years ago or whatever. And I remember one day my husband came home from work and I was in our bedroom and I was reading all the comments under a blog about the show that morning.
Oh
And
no, you read the comments.
there were some really mean comments about me. And so I'm just sitting there reading them and I'm bawling. Like I literally am bawling. And Aaron, he literally was like, "I don't understand. You keep doing the same thing and the same results keep happening. Like, why do you still read these? Because every time you start crying." And I'm like, "I know, but I can't help it. I keep coming back." And so I too have had to grow a lot of thick skin. And I like to tell people, man, if you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't type it. Like that is just like a little social media etiquette is like so
Yeah.
many times you're like, oh, I'm just going to tell them what I want to tell them. But if you wouldn't look at Bree or myself or your friend or your neighbor or your pastor or your pastor's wife or whoever and say it to their face, then it's a good little reminder like, oh, maybe I don't need to type this either as well. Okay. So I know that you are not doing anchoring anymore. Is that what it's called? Anchoring.
Yeah, I'm not a
Uh,
news anchor anymore.
you're
No.
not a news anchor anymore, but you're doing your own thing. And so I want you to talk to us about what led you to start your own thing.
Yeah. So actually, the conversation we just had about all those things coming
Mm,
at me, I learned the term imposter syndrome when I was doing news anchoring. It's way before it became this hot button
yeah.
word or phrase that we all hear now, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, imposter syndrome," and half the people have it wrong, and half the people are
Well,
trying to
set
figure out
us
if they have
straight.
it.
I want to know what you
Yeah.
learned and what it means to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so imposter syndrome is, if I were to just boil it down, it is the inability for someone to acknowledge their accomplishments, right? It's, oh, I'm lucky, or they just like me, or they're going to find out that I'm not as smart as, they think I am. Those are kind of some of those things. Or I'm just not good enough, right? I'm not good enough and I'm never going to be good enough, but I'm going to try my best, right? Until they burn out. And so towards the end of me anchoring and me battling with some of these thoughts of, why am I not better at this? And now I know I was pretty good at it. Um, I was approached to do a talk show. Someone said, "Hey, how do you think about doing a talk show?" And I thought, who am I to have a talk show? What am I going to talk
Mm,
about? You know, no one wants to see me. I don't have anything to say. I'm just this small town news anchor, right? And so my husband and I talked about it a little bit more. And I said, I'm not sure. And he says, you're suffering from imposter syndrome, and I'm like, you're right, And I said, you know what, that's what the show has to be about. If we do the show, it has to be about imposter syndrome, right? And so I
mm,
went and started, talking to my friends about it, making it seem like it was just an idea. But we were already in the works. I'm like, what do you think? Like if
uh-huh.
I did the show, expecting them to not be excited or to be like, yeah, that might be nice. But they were all excited. So I'm like, oh, now I have to do it. And yeah. And I kept putting all these blockers in the way. It's like, okay, well, I have this idea. If I can come up with a plan, I'll do it. Came up with a plan. Okay. Well, if I can find a team of people to help me, which I didn't need, I'll do it. Right.
Uh-huh.
If I can read all these books and find out all this research beforehand, then I'll do it. If we can find a space, we'll do it. And then it's the day of filming the show, and it's like, well, I guess we're doing this, right?
Here we go.
And so, yeah, yeah. And so the main goal behind the show was to let other people know that this was a thing, that they're not just dealing with depression or anxiety or PTSD or some of those other things. While those may well be factors in their lives, for some of them, it boils down to imposter syndrome. It's you're not depressed and sad and tired because of that. It's you're burnt out because you're trying to prove yourself and everyone around you wrong.
Mm,
Or it's society has told you that you're not good enough, you'll never be good enough, and you're trying to prove them wrong, and you're
mm,
tired and you're sad and you're exhausted.
mm.
And so we decided to have this show to make people aware. And we wanted to interview people like me and these therapists and Jeff Jenkins, who has his own show now on Nat Geo. Some of these very successful people who are in the limelight, who you would think, oh, they're so confident. They
Right.
never have a bad day. They got it going on,
Uh-huh.
and show them, no, we're a mess.
Mm,
Just like you were a mess. But that doesn't mean that we aren't capable. That doesn't mean that our accomplishments aren't our own. It just means that we're all a mess and we all need
mm,
each other and we need to talk
mhm.
about it, and navigate life leaning on one another. And so that's really what the show was, to bring awareness about this phenomenon and help people understand that this might be what you're dealing with and kind of help them find freedom in that.
It's so interesting because I too think I would have defined imposter syndrome differently than what you said. Let
Mhm.
me think about how
Yeah.
I would have thought. I would have thought that imposter syndrome was, well, maybe exactly what you said now that I think about it. But I think I would have thought like that I don't think I can be what I am. So I try to be something else. But that's not what you're saying at all.
Yeah. And that is what people think it is, and it's not.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so a lot of people, I remember talking to someone about the show, and she's like, well, why not just be yourself? And I'm like, no, 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 no. It's not being yourself. It's you trying to be 110% yourself to the point where you have nothing left of you to give, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you looking the best that you can look. It's you speaking the best that you can speak. It's you doing the most work that you can do to prove that you are who you are.
Mm.
And that is what imposter syndrome is. It's not putting on this mask. And so and it's funny, in a lot of the show we talked about unmasking imposter syndrome to let people know that it's not something that you put on and you walk around with. It's you embracing the fact that you are the real deal. And that's how we came
Mm.
up for the name for the show. The real deal is you embracing that you are the real deal, that you've accomplished all these things, and it was you. It wasn't a fluke, it wasn't by mistake. And so that's why we came out with the show, because there were a lot of these misconceptions of people saying, stop faking it, just be
Mm.
you. But imposter syndrome is you thinking that you're faking it, you thinking that you're a fraud, and that's just not the case.
Okay, this is good, and it's making me think that you I'm putting a bunch of pieces together, puzzles together from our conversation. You said you started discovering this
Yeah.
when you were in Idaho, and you were the news anchor.
Yes.
And you
Mm.
said two things so far that made me think that this is what you discovered about yourself. First, you told me the
Oh yeah.
story how you were not their first choice, and then
Hmm.
very flippantly, in one of the things that you were saying about that, you said, and then I discovered that I actually was good at my job. And
Yeah.
I wonder if that was your journey while you were there of working so hard to prove that you were good, and at the end going, "Oh, I am good at this." Is that
Oh,
part
yeah.
of your journey?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The
You see
issue
how I
is,
put all those together, Brie?
yeah,
Look at me. I got
I
imposter
mean,
syndrome down.
you're doing it. You're doing it. We're gonna have to have you on the show
I would
because
love
you're
that.
doing
I would
it.
love that. But in all reality, like that is a big jump though. And I know people are
Yeah,
listening going, "Okay, that's awesome, but how did you get from that jump
yeah,
of I'm scared, I'm moving up here. Oh, I don't even think I was their first choice. I'm the first black
yeah,
woman that's ever anchored this desk. Oh my gosh, what do I do?" To then getting to where you're like, "I actually am really good at this and I was the best
yeah.
person for this job." How'd you get there?
It was a long, struggling, healing process that I'm still kind of going through. So, I mean, it started with me just acknowledging it, realizing, hey, because it's not you not being confident, right? It's an inconsistency of confidence. Because
Mm.
I had to have confidence just to get on that anchor desk and
Okay, I
do my
like
job.
that. It's not a
You know?
lack of confidence. It's
Yeah.
inconsistent confidence.
Yes. And so I had to have the confidence to get up there and do what I was doing. So it's not that I just thought, oh, you're crap from the beginning. That wasn't the case. It was, I had these reoccurring moments where I was unsure, where there was doubt. And to put it plainly for our listeners, these are lies from the enemy. You
Mm,
know, I tell people, think of it that way, because I mean, I can say it's imposter syndrome all day long. I can say it's doubt. I can say it's low self-esteem. But at the end of the day, it's lies from the enemy. The enemy
mm,
stopping you from trying to to complete your purpose. And so my purpose was to be there for whatever reason God wanted me to be there. And the enemy wanted to get me off of that anchor desk. What better way to do it than to make me think that I am not good at my job, that I
yeah.
am not a news anchor, that I cannot do this, right? And so I had to fight those messages. And I wish I could sit here and say I fought those messages with scripture and praying and meditation, but that's not exactly what happened. It was me surrounding myself with people who knew me, who knew the facts, who were constantly telling me, hey, Bree, you've done this. You've done this for, at that time, 9 years. You
Mm,
know, how could you possibly think that you're not qualified to do this? Look at all these emails, these positive emails that you've gotten from the
mhm,
community. Look at all these stories that you've done. Look at how you've not only have you been here since 5 a.m., but you put this whole package together by yourself. You can run this, you can run the switchboard, if you wanted to. How could you possibly think that you're not good enough to do this? Right?
mm,
My husband was a big part of that. Him speaking life into me and having me doubt my doubts
mm,
often and saying, "No, I know you and it's not just because I love you and I wouldn't waste my time or set you up to for failure by telling you that you were great at something that you weren't," right?
mm,
He's very honest like that. He'll tell me if something's not
mhm,
clicking. And so it was me trusting the people around me that loved me, that cared about me, and stopping my brain from twisting their words and
mm,
saying, oh, they're just saying that because they love me. Oh, they're just saying that because they're my friend. Oh, I just got lucky. Oh, they just needed something. No one is desperate enough to put up with someone who isn't going to help them accomplish whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish.
mm,
And so that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, you got that job because they needed you to have that job, right?
mm,
It doesn't matter how desperate they were. If you can't do the job, they're not going to make money. They wouldn't hire you, right?
mhm,
Those types of things. And I had to acknowledge the root where it came from.
mm,
Where did this lie start? Where did I? Because it wasn't just with jobs. It wasn't just with my career, it was with every aspect of my life. It was with my
mhm,
relationships where I'm thinking, Brie, you're not good enough, or you're not doing enough, or you're not. So I had to go back and see, when did this start? And why did this start? Who spoke this over me? Who
mm,
spoke these word curses over me? And what do
mm,
I need to do to break those? And
mm,
it was a long process of going back and forth and battling and just having bad days where nothing worked, and then having good days where I'm like, you know what? No, I can do this. And all those good days, I wrote everything down. I write everything down. I'm not saying journaling, because I know some people don't like to journal. I don't either. But I would just jot down list of facts. What did I accomplish today?
Mm.
Or what did I accomplish this week if it wasn't, that day?
Mhm.
And what does this say about me? You know, not just, hey, I was able to organize my household. No, it's that God made me this homemaker. He
Mhm.
gave me this home to take care of because he knew that I could take care of this home and that nobody else could do this the way that I'm doing it, right? That
Mhm.
no one can wife my husband the way that I wife my husband, right?
Mhm.
Like those types of things. And so it took a long time of hearing these messages, reprogramming my brain, unlearning some of these lies that I had been telling myself and hearing my entire life to get to where I am now. And I still haven't completely arrived. There's still days where I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
Yeah.
But that does not mean that I'm not, on the right path. Right. And so
Mhm.
anybody who's thinking that, you're going to have this is work. It's hard work.
Mhm. I love that you said that because it is hard work, and I would say that I could think of some areas of my life that I have struggled with that more than others, and I would say that in different seasons, different things come up and lies get louder or softer depending on what's going on. And I love that you said that you need it in community. You need people surrounding you who are going to remind you what is true. I think that our community that we have around us, it is massive for our growth. It's massive for our continuing to love and serve the Lord. It is really, really, really important. Okay, so your show, The Real Deal, where can they find it? How
Yes.
many seasons? All the things.
Yeah. So there's two seasons. They each have 8 episodes. They can find it on YouTube. That's where we are mainly there. And if you all are sleeping on YouTube, I need you all to wake up because
Let's go.
it's the
Let's go.
yes. Well, because it's the way things are going. As a news anchor, I will tell you that is the way things are going. With all the streaming services and everything, just go to YouTube. So YouTube
Yeah.
is where my show is. You can also find more resources on our website, and that's BreClarkTV.com, Bre with one E. And there you can just read more about each person that we had on the show and what they have to offer. Because each one of them, they either have a practice or they have books or they have something that can help you get more insight. Because I don't want you listening to me all day. I have a
Mhm.
limited, capacity of knowledge. There
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
much smarter people than me who we had on the show that can tell you all about not just imposter syndrome, but dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with in life. That I'm sure you can get some nuggets to help you along the way.
I love that so much. And I know one of your guests that you've had on is a mutual friend of ours, Jen Jet Barrett, who runs
Yes.
Camp Well. And I actually attended the very first Camp Well that there ever was. I think it was in 2015, maybe, or 2016. I can't remember. That feels like a lifetime ago. I'm gonna be quite
Yeah.
honest with you. But I know you've attended Camp Well as well. And you said that a little bit of your story kind of came from your time there. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So between season one and season two, there wouldn't be a season two if there wasn't a Camp Well.
Okay, I love
So
that.
yes. So season one, I had just left, the news industry for good. I'm like, you know what? It's time
Uh-huh.
for me to focus on my family. I was traveling from Oklahoma to Texas every week. I was exhausted. And my son was like, you don't live with us. And so we started this TV show.
Yeah.
And I felt like the height of my life. I'm like, I'm doing this thing, this big thing. I'm doing it. And then this big thing, we shot all the episodes, everything was put together and we were just releasing them. And I'm like, now what?
Mm,
Now what do I do? Because I had been running for the last decade. And it's like, what do I do now? I don't have to run and get on my I don't have to go have deadline. I don't go on the air. My son, he's now going to school, so he's not
yeah.
at home. What am I doing? What is my purpose? What is the point of all this? And so I get invited to go to Campwell. Actually, Taylor Nichols, another one of our mutual friends, she had been trying to
Mhm.
get me to go for years. And she says, you need to go. And I said, okay, I'm going to go. This is going to be fun. And I actually almost backed out a
Mm.
week before Campwell. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get in my Jeep and I'm going to drive all the way from Texas to Colorado Springs. And,
That
the
is
big
no
dirt road.
joke there, Bree.
Yes. I needed some time. I needed
Yeah,
some
you
time in the
did.
car. It's like, I gotta prepare myself. Well, it was a great drive. I loved it until the last 30 minutes, that little cliff that you drive on.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I have been set up. Like, Jesus, you have set me up because I'm on this cliff. If I make one wrong turn, I'm going to fall off I'm gonna, and I don't know how far I have to go because I don't
Uh-huh.
no longer have cell
You
service.
lose service out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm like, I'm on the side of the cliff for how long? And if another car comes my way, I'm gonna die because this road is as wide as, the Jeep. And that was the whole process there during Campwell,
Mm,
was trusting him with some hard conversations about my past, some hard conversations about what my future was going to look like, and me not realizing that I needed rest and that I did not know
mm,
what rest was. I thought rest was sleeping,
mm-hmm,
and sleeping made me feel lazy. I was like, oh, if
mm-hmm,
I'm sleep, because all of my purpose came from doing. It's like if
mm.
I'm not doing something, that I am worthless, which is the furthest from the truth. But that is what I
Right.
thought. And so I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm worthless. And the women at the retreat and Jesus just met us. He just met us
Mm,
there. And he told me things that I had never heard. I thought no one cares. And I got this sweet, sweet, and in our interview, season 2, episode 1, we talk about this. I got this sweet letter from my niece, because they give us letters. And my niece actually sent it in a form of a text message. She didn't even know I was at Camp Well, but she sent it that same night that we got letters
oh, wow.
from people who love us. And it's a niece that she's my niece-in-law. I only see her on holidays, maybe. And it was her telling me how much she just felt like I saw her.
Mm,
And I didn't even think this girl even cared anything about
yeah.
me, other than, oh, that's Aunt Bre,
Uh-huh.
that I see on holidays. And she, out of all of her aunts, she's just like, you just make me feel seen.
Mm,
And I feel like you're very genuine, right? And my whole show is about being the real deal. And here's my
mm-hmm.
niece who cares about me, and I didn't know, like, just didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I started to think, how many more people are there like that in the world, that just me existing is important for them,
Mm,
right? Who might be devastated if I wasn't here, or devastated if I just wasn't breathing. And
mm-hmm,
so I learned at the retreat, like, we get just so caught up in what we're doing that we forget that just our presence of us
mm,
being is important. And so for season 2, we talked about imposter syndrome, but I really wanted to talk about some other things, some deep rooted things, talking about my history with depression, talking about my trauma of losing our first child, talking about moving, talking about our rocky marriage that we had the first 5 years, and just all those things in between, and just bringing some of those real life issues into the conversation as well. And so
mm.
that is what, happened with season 2. And it wouldn't have been a thing, and I wouldn't have had the courage to do the thing without Campwell.
I love that so much. Campwell, I know, has been just monumental in so many women's lives that I know, and I love the work that Jen's doing over there. And I love hearing that story of how your niece texted you and how that showed you. Now this is coming out in January. Full disclosure, we are recording this in September. So listen,
Yes.
we're like speaking into the future here. We don't even know what's going to be happening in January, but we are just speaking into the future. But we do know that right now you are with child. Okay.
Yes. I
So
am
when
very
when
pregnant.
this show comes out, you have a newborn baby at your house. So how are you going to record season 3?
Yeah, we've been trying to figure that out. We have I thought about doing it just, in my second trimester. I was like, what if I just film it now?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, that'd be so cute, the big belly and all that. And I was just like, I don't have the brain space to do
Uh-huh.
any of that right now, like I thought. And so we are planning on shooting season 3, or releasing it in the spring. And so I'm just hoping that everything works out. I hope that she is just a very chill baby. My son was not. So we have just been speaking it into existence. We're like, oh,
Well, the
she's going to
truth
be
is,
so
Bree,
chill.
if your son was not chill, whatever happens is probably going to feel more chill.
Yeah, probably.
So it's
Yes.
probably going to work out.
So yeah, so we're having a little girl, and she was very much a surprise. We prayed really hard for our son. We didn't pray hard at all for this. This was just a bonus gift that Jesus
Hmm.
was like, here you go, 6 years
Yeah,
later. And so we thought we were done, and we're not. So here
I
we are.
love it. I love it so much. Well, I'm super excited about your show, and Thanks for breaking down imposter syndrome. I'm probably going to find myself thinking about that more today because it's just different than I imagined. And it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense with
Yeah.
how we live our lives like that. And we really don't allow ourselves to live up to our full potential or to believe that we have this full potential, even,
Yeah.
to not believe in it. I'd love to hear from you. What are you reading these days?
I am currently reading Oprah's book. She did a collaboration on What Happened to You.
With Dr. Bruce
So
Perry?
yes, yes. So I
It is
am reading
so
that.
good.
Yeah, I'm late to get to the game. I started reading it and then I put it away and then I'm like, let me just bring this back out. So I'm reading that right now and it's actually giving me a lot of insights. It talks a lot about imposter syndrome in there as well. So there you go. That's what we're doing.
Let me tell you, if you're finding it hard to read, I don't know if you are or not by any means, but I
Yeah.
listen to it on Audible. I'm a big in the car and on walks. I like to listen to things a lot. And Oprah and him read it, and often it sounds like a podcast. And so it was super
Oh,
easy
okay.
to listen to because they kind of go back and forth with some things. I loved that book so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Well, Bree, thank you so much for coming on the happy hour. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. We're gonna do this. We're gonna stay friends.
I love it. Okay, friends, I hope you loved my conversation with Bree. I want to tell you that my book, Why Can't I Get It Together, is right around the corner of coming out. It releases February 13th, but I have some cool things that are happening right now that I want you to know about. First of all, you can get the book wherever you buy books. Second, I am going on a book tour. I am going to be in Northwest Arkansas. I'm going to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to Arlington, which is in the middle of Dallas and Fort Worth. I'm going to Austin, Texas, and I'll be in Waco, Texas as well. I would love it if you live in any of those areas to join me. Go to jamieivey.com/tour for all the information. And last thing I want to tell you this, if you pre-order my book, you can join my launch team. And you're like, Jamie, why would I join a launch team? Well, it's fun. I'll tell you that. It's really, really fun. And so we're having a great time over there. Go to jamieivey.com/book and all the information's there. Here's what's fun about the launch team is we have live weekly calls. This last week was so fun. We have live weekly calls and we give stuff away all the time. We've given away a denim jacket from Able. We've given away a Stanley Cup. We're going to be giving away some jewelry. We're going to give away a grand prize of lodging and dinner in my local town, which is so fun. So check it all out. Go to jamieivey.com for all the information, but we're going to put the links to the tour and to the launch team below in the comments so you can find those there. Thanks, guys. Hey friends, I hope you love this conversation as much as I did. To make sure that you never miss any of the happy hour conversations, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below to make sure you're notified every time we release a new episode. And if you want more content today, click on those videos over there. I think you're gonna like them just as much as you like the one today.